The Mystara project is proud to present part 22 of the Law of Mystara series. In this video we look at the period from BC 600 to BC 628. Under pressure from the advancing phalanxes of the Mylenian Empire, the Thyacian, Corendon and Hattian tribes of the Jungle Coast decided to sail in search of new lands to settle. Some were successful in reaching a beautiful land, about 1,500 miles across the sea to the north. When the explorers returned, the tribes decided to migrate to this new land to escape Mylenian subjugation. They started building a flotilla for their mass migration. Around BC 600, Vanya, a Corendon warrior princess, led a force to harass the Mylenians, to give enough time for her people to escape on ships to the beautiful new land. Their efforts achieved their goal, however they were all killed except Vanya, who was captured by the Mylenians. Some tribespeople remained and were enslaved by the Mylenians, however the majority set sail. They passed through the eastern edge of Thanagiath archipelago. Many died in the rough sea voyage, prompting the survivors to name the body of water, the Sea of Dread, just like the Medita, Verdia and Aquarendi elves had done since the cataclysm of BC 1750. The Hattians landed on the large peninsula of southeast Brune at the mouth of a river they called the Pelion. The Corendons settled on the coast, east of the Dimrak forest, at the mouth of a river they call the Corenda. And the Thyacians anchored on the coast further east, at the mouth of a river they called the Masonian. The new settlers quickly pushed back the local Taurali tribes. Around 600 BC, Dengar dwarfs founded the gold mining village of Girad, meaning rusty in Dwarvish, in the northern Altan Tepe mountains. Upper Girad comprised a stone-walled village on an upper slope of a low mountain, with tunnels and mines deep into, and under, the mountain. The underground portion contained a large hall. Sometime between BC 600 and BC 572, a Thyacian spy tried to incite the Hin of Sheridan to rebel against Sheriff Gunzuth. Outraged Hin grabbed him by the throat, but he escaped when they were distracted by other Hin questioning them about their motives. The spy fled to the Black Spires and was never seen by the Hin again. The Hin laughed heartily at the foolishness of the spy's plan. Sometime between BC 600 and BC 192, Patura became queen of Thyatis. Bitter at the treatment of women in her society, she was susceptible to the persuasion of Thanatos, embarking on the path of the fiend in the sphere of entropy. However, Ixion was able to counter Thanatos' influence. Patura rejected entropy and embarked on the path of the paragon in the sphere of energy. The details of her path are unknown. Her standout attribute as an immortal is intelligence, so she may have been a rare Thyacian magic user. As her trial, she may have created a new magic item, Braces of Bravery, bestowing immunity to fear. For her testimony, it is likely she would have trained at least 6 female apprentices to rise at least 12 levels. She may have transformed the central and southern Masonian region and northern Hattirs by planting helichrysums throughout a 100-mile radius from Thyatis city and introducing new normal animals there. There would have been very few high-level magic users in her territory to defeat. Perhaps she would have been challenged by Nithian mages. Eventually, Patura achieved immortality, becoming the patroness of downtrodden women everywhere. Sometime between BC 600 and AC 900, the Thyacian, Ari Sikthon, cut down a soul tree of a powerful hamadryad, and was famine cursed by her for this act. This was the first known use of the famine curse ability, which was subsequently dubbed Ari Sikthon's curse. Sometime between BC 599 and BC 570, Vanya befriended a Mylenian cleric who helped her escape with him. It is highly likely that their relationship was romantic. The cleric encouraged her to undertake the path of the dynast in the sphere of time, sponsored by Coronis. Details of Vanya's quest are unknown. The realm she created could have been on the Gulf of Mar coast, beyond the control of the Mylenian Empire. Vanya created a realm of at least 50,000 with a great new capital city of her design. She ruled for at least 20 years, overcoming Mylenian and Simbasta challenges, a coup, and an assassination attempt. Her quest led her to find a dangerous and unpredictable time machine, possibly on the world that Coronis once ruled as a mortal. She created a family dynasty and helped them to hold on to the realm at 3 different future critical times, beyond the rule of her grandchild. Sometime between BC 579 and BC 520, Vanya achieved immortality on the path of the dynasty in the sphere of time. She became the patroness of war, conquerors, conquests, childbirth, women, pride, honor and superiority. Through dreams or avatars, she gained a following among the Thyacian peoples, who also refer to her as the Grey Lady. Her mortal remains lie on a cliff overlooking the Gulf of Mar, in eastern Egypt. In BC 572, Sheriff Gunzuth, on his deathbed, ordered that Sherden be split into 5 shires, for he had 5 sons and wished to avoid war. The 5 shires consisted of South Shire, Hertshire, Seashire, Eastshire, and Highshire. Each shire was to be equal in law to the others, the land as a whole being governed by a council of the 5 sheriffs, each having 1 vote. It was done, and the golden years of the shires commenced. Sometime between BC 570 and BC 518, Sekhaba was born in Rannoch, the Nithian capital. In BC 556, Yav was born in the Serpent Peninsula region, to a Tanagoran father and an elven mother. Sometime between BC 545 and BC 538, Yav had a reputation for being the strongest seer his people had ever known. He had become a hero for timely predictions of disasters, like hurricanes. He could also tell a person's destiny, just by looking at their aura. Sometime between BC 541 and BC 538, Yav became an adult and joined the seers. He began to preach that seers should never use their powers for personal gain, but was largely ignored. An increasing number of people started to form a view that precognition was evil. Some elven purists took Yav's ideas further, and denounced intermarriage between elves and Tanagoro, to prevent more seers from being born. Sometime between BC 535 and BC 518, Madarua was born in Nithia. In the chaos of the Nithian civil war, she was able to become one of the few female warriors of her culture. In BC 529, concerned citizens of the Serpent Peninsula region revolted against a series of abuses by the ruling class of seers. Elven purists, who opposed intermarriage, savagely slaughtered every seer they could find, shocking the rest of the Shialia elven populace. A few purists also killed people of mixed ancestry, regardless of their precognitive ability. Old grudges between the Tanagorans and the Shialia elves flared up and led to civil war. Tanagorans started calling for the expulsion of all elves. Yav's precognitive abilities alerted him to suspect that something was causing the seers to become selfish. He himself also was tempted by greed, with only his strong will preventing him from abusing his power. He traveled to other lands to meet with eminent seers and soothsayers to discover the source of the corruption. However, all but one of these people's precognition was based on magic, not an inborn talent. In his absence, his followers claimed that Yav did not resist when he was killed in the civil war by elves, as he declared it was the will of the immortals. His followers continued to spread his philosophy that precognition was not evil, but needed to be carefully restricted and controlled. By the year's end, 10,000 had been killed in the civil war. The Shialia elves fled the Serpent Peninsula. Ulimwengu closed its borders in horror. After the civil war, a handful of mighty seers rose to wield absolute power over the Tanagoran cities. There was no restraint in the use of precognition. Commoners purchased fortune-tellings and dream interpretations from seers. In the spring of BC 528, 3,000 Shialia elves reached the grasslands of the Urduks after fleeing the Serpent Peninsula. The Urduks allow the elves to pass through their lands, but cannot shelter them, as they are themselves struggling to survive. The Shialia crossed the Sind Desert onto the Plain of Fire. There they stumbled on the southeastern edge of the Grak cave system. The elves saw an underground wonderland filled with plentiful water and abundant wildlife. The area appeared abandoned with some caves containing uninhabited stone buildings. So, they settled in and started exploring further. Some of the elven seers spoke of unsettling dreams, but no one was able to interpret them. Their sages theorized that the strange caverns somehow interfered with precognition. The elves soon discovered why there were no inhabitants. In one afternoon, hundreds of elves choked on deadly clouds of yellow mold spores. The elven survivors escaped deeper into the caverns, until they encountered the Grugrak Knolls. A series of bloody skirmishes ensued. Some Shialia decided to settle and fight the Knolls. Others departed. Unwelcome in Sind, a few found passage through the highlands and the Streel Plain to Alfheim. Others headed west, but returned to the caves after being repelled by humanoids in the Black Mountains. This concludes part 22 of the Law of Mystara series, spanning BC 600 to BC 528. A period of women warriors, deadly migrations, and precognition.